numbers. The numbers are there for everybody to see. Okay, that is the positivist approach. Then we have the phenomenological approach. So these approaches are particularly concerned with understanding behavior from the participants' own subjective frames of reference. So now I hope you got the basic understanding. So what are the different methods that both use? Here you can see positivists, they make use of surveys. Then we have experimental studies. Like last class itself, we spoke about experimental studies. One group is the experimental group, another group is the control group. You are making a comparison of the output between these two groups. Then we have longitudinal studies. What are longitudinal studies? I find something now. Say this is 2021. I conduct a survey. I gather information from a specific sample, and I tabulate everything. I have certain figures with me. Now, does it change over a period of time? I want to check. Say a certain aspect, does it change over a period of time? Then how big is that time frame? I can do it after 6 months, after 1 year, or after 5 years. But one thing we should remember, it has to be, if the sample is the same, then the veracity and the validity, reliability would be good. Okay, but generally also it's not mandatory that you use the same sample. But if you use the same sample, you will know how things have changed from 2021 to 2026. What are cross-sectional studies? At a given point in time, you have collected the data. Now, all that all of us do for your project is cross-sectional study. You want to study psychological well-being of children. What do? You take a questionnaire on psychological well-being, then you will give it to the children. Now, when I say children, it's a very broad term. On what age children you want to do? Then you will be more specific, saying adolescents. Now define what is adolescence. What is the age group that falls under adolescence? How are you defining that age? So and so has stated in their work. Okay, now we have textbooks, right? So use a textbook. Define adolescence. What is the age? So your sample will have adolescents beginning from 10 years to 18 years of age. So you are testing psychological well-being of these children who are aged between 10 and 18. And you're gathering information. Probably you will take around a week or 1 month or a fortnight to gather information from your sample. So you have finished your data collection at a given point in time. That's it. That is the cross-sectional study. But if you want to study the responses of these people after a year, you save these results, you give your questionnaire to the same set of people after a year, then it becomes a longitudinal study. Okay. Then we have case studies, action research, ethnography. Remember ethnography, we spoke in the last class also, that the researcher will go and stay with them. He will literally dwell in that setting. And nobody will know that he is carrying out his research. Okay. Then we have feminist perspectives and grounded theory. All these things will probably come in qualitative research for you. Now, what are surveys? So, you are trying to get an unbiased sample of subjects. Again, here, who is going to be a part of your study? How are you going to select your sample? Now, I said my sample is diabetic women. It becomes a purposive sampling method. I am on purpose choosing only those women who are diabetic. Okay. And then random sampling is another technique I would use. Why random sampling? After going to the clinic where I know that only diabetic women are there, there is no specific rule as to why I am choosing one person and why I am not choosing another person. So I am just distributing the questionnaire randomly. There also you can identify as to why you are using a specific person and why you are not using. The normal probability sampling, you can use one technique where every first patient, every 10th patient, or every 5th patient in the visit to the doctor will be considered for the study. So you're going with some sense of direction. It is not simple random method. Okay. So surveys, they could be descriptive surveys or there could be analytical surveys. Then we have the experimental studies where you have the experimental group and the control group. We have the longitudinal studies. Then we have the cross-sectional studies. Now, what are the case studies? Case studies is like one particular thing stands out and you can write on that. Okay, for example, you can talk about a strike that has gone in an industry, and you can describe that in detail and then connect it with the theory that is already there. So behavior of the people when conducting a strike is like this. Okay, so it could be gathering and analyzing information. It could be information that may be both qualitative and quantitative. Okay, what will these contribute to? Case studies will contribute to formulating theories. Now, what is action research? Action research is an
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't understand case study, madam.
case study is something has happened. You want to represent that as a case. Okay, you will write about it completely in a very formal and structured manner. So what we are trying to tell you here is, example is, a strike has occurred in a particular organization. So what is your case study? Your case study is about the reasons that were cause of the strike, how the management is dealing with it. So case study generally can be for a singular incident or a broader term also. You could say job satisfaction of employees in HPCL, a case study, right? So depending on that, you will arrive at a particular conclusion. The work atmosphere is good. Supposing you want to do it in Google, you will make a comparison of the PSUs and the private sector. That also can be a case study. Okay, what are you doing there? It is descriptive. There could be these 4 types of case studies. Descriptive, where you are explaining the practices that are existing in that particular point of interest. What is the point of interest here for us? Google is the point of interest. It could be illustrative. You will here the case studies will illustrate new practices adopted by the organization. Then we have the experimental methods, where the organization is trying to introduce new practices and you will discuss the outcome of the introduction of new practices. Okay, then explanatory method, here you will make use of the theories that are used as a basis for understanding and explaining the practices or the procedures. So a case study is done on a specific entity, right? For example, you carry out a study on weavers. Okay, so we have n number of weaving communities, right? For example, if you take Andhra Pradesh, Konduru, where you have khadi.
Yes,
The lives of weavers is not that easy. I hope we all have an understanding of that, right?
yeah.
From weaving to getting it to the market, there are so many middlemen. And ultimately, what is the weaver getting? Peanuts. What is the seller getting? He is making huge profits. There is a huge gap or difference in the style of these two people, the weaver and the seller. Okay, The weaver is struggling to make his ends meet. He's sometimes having a lot of difficulty having a square meal a day. He's unable to support his family, and that is why weavers are sending their children for education. They are relocating for jobs. Okay, so there are so many weaver communities, but yeah, I was talking about say Andhra Pradesh, Guntur, where we have a weaving community, then Mangalagiri,
Yes, ma'am.
and something else. Pochampalli goes into Telangana, but how we are going to compare the lifestyles of a particular weaving community. When we are comparing, we will make use of two. So what do we do? What procedure do we use? I can go in for ethnography. What is ethnography? I will go and stay with one of the weaver's family.
Okay.
Okay. Then another, it could be descriptive in the sense I will, again, I am interested only in understanding the life of the Mangalagiri weavers. That's all. So, what is my research question there? Understand the lifestyles of Mangalgiri weavers and see how their what to say interest towards continuing the family tradition is. Some of them might say, "We will stop. Our children are not into the trade." So, how many families are like that? So, who's going to be my sample? All the weaver families in Mangalgiri will be my sample. How am I going to gather information? I may prepare a questionnaire and go, or I may just go there and ask them and do a structured interview. By structured interview, I say I will ask all the weavers the same questions. I will record their responses. By an unstructured interview, I mean their responses will guide the course of my interview. Okay? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So, action research. What is action research? You are researching and you are trying to provide an intervention to bring about a change. Like I gave you the example of the rural diabetic women. How many of them are, see, the major flaw with the disease is until unless you go and do a blood test, you yourself will not know whether you are a diabetic or not. Forget about urban woman or a rural woman. The nature of the disease is such. Okay, so what has to be done here? Awareness about regular health checkups should be created in urban as well as in rural.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what could be the intervention here? Awareness programs by the researcher can be the intervention.
Right.
Then you will evaluate the results. Okay, if you have provided knowledge to the patients, how has this knowledge helped them? Are they going in for regular checkups or not? Many of us know it is ideal to keep a close monitor of our glucose levels. So we go once in every 2 months for a blood check. How many of the rural women do like that? Okay, so this is in a nutshell, okay, action research. Then ethnography, like I have discussed about this style enough, I think, so I will not spend too much time. What is participant inquiry? So here research within one's own group or organization and involves the active involvement and cooperation of people who you would normally work and associate with on a daily basis. So it is either entire group is involved in the research and there is sharing, agreeing, cooperating so that the entire research process is made possible. So this type of research work, when the student is already an active and known member of any organization, so he may be suitable for this kind of an approach. So quite a number of times companies would not want to share major information about their organization. So if you are one amongst the organization, then such kind of a participant inquiry is possible. So this is a feminist perspective. What is this? It focuses on knowledge grounded in female experiences and is of benefit to everyone, but more particularly to women. So one way in which I try to bring novelty into my work is concentrate more on women. It's not that I want to sound a feminist, but yeah, a lot of changes in the lives of women have taken place. They have become more independent, they have become more outgoing, and they are doing this multitasking, which is pushing them into a zone. Like there is a constant struggle of work-life balance, right? And then we have gender sensitization, all these things. Where just yesterday I was going through a video which said not many women are at successful positions in the higher educational institutions. We do not have many vice chancellors, women vice chancellors.
True,
Why?
ma'am.
There is a huge
Gender
gender,
bias. Yeah.
right? Yeah, it could be bias, and it could also be that they do not have adequate time to give to their job. It is just that they want to be financially independent, but they are not so driven to climb up the ladder. Okay, I do not know how many of you have uh, read about Indira Nooyi. She has become the CEO of Pepsi, and that is like a huge, huge sacrifice by the family. Sacrifice in terms of children not spending quality time with the mother, or she not performing the regular duties of a mother. For that matter, there was this WhatsApp forward which I got and read. Most of you also would have got. On the list of priorities, a top 10 list of priorities, her husband was at the 10th position or in the last position. So what he had said, at least I figure there. Okay, so that is the kind of sacrifice that a person has to make if she has to go that high. And not that they cannot go and they cannot do. There are so many other factors. Okay. Yeah, so that is about feminist perspective. Then we have the grounded theory. Here it reverses approaches in research that collected data in order to test the validity of theoretical propositions in favor of an approach that emphasizes the generation of the theory from data. So what you're doing here, you have the data first and then you're arriving at the theory. Earlier methods were like you had a theory and then you were doing the application aspect. Now, identify the approach and methodology. So these are certain exercises or questions I had used during my lecture. How do financial advice services market the youth market? An impact of developments in IT on financial services, disability awareness training within leisure organizations. So these are just some hypothetical situations. Now, so here you see all that we have just spoken about. This is the scenario. How do financial advice services market to the youth market? They take a positivist approach and cross-sectional study. Okay. So impact of developments in IT on financial services. Here also they take a positivistic approach and cross-sectional study and in-depth survey of one company. When you're doing in-depth survey of one company, it becomes a case study. Okay, so here you see you're using two methods, right? The third scenario is disability awareness training within leisure organizations. You are following the phenomenological approach, and the style used, methodology used is participant observation. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So just look at this. This is again a hypothetical situation. Identify the approach and methodology you would use. This is the situation. Age discrimination in the workplace. Personality testing. Is this a valid tool in the recruitment and selection process? An impact of in-store marketing campaign. Now, here, age discrimination in workplace. It could be tackled in more than one way. You can take the positivistic approach, you can take the phenomenological approach and the feminist perspective. You could make use of survey method or the case study method. So similarly, all these things also could be handled. Then, yeah, these are certain examples that I have used. So what are the advantages if you use the positivist approach? And what are the advantages you use the phenomenological approach? Okay. Now coming to the entire research process. Shall we stop?
As you wish, ma'am.
It may be too much of information overload. I
Yeah.
can I can go on and on, not a problem. But yeah, I'll just finish this research process and we will break.
Okay.
Okay.
And a small request, ma'am.
Yeah.
Will you please send this PPT in the group, ma'am, so that we can.
This
Yes,
is
ma'am. I mean, once we go through, read it, I agree with what Sujata said. It will be helpful.
I used this for you people because it would just make the process simple. But your textbook gives a totally different structure.
That's
No,
okay, ma'am. Just we will get one overall view, no, ma'am. That's fine.
thing
Please.
is, we have covered all the points, ma'am. So
Yeah.
once we just go through this, no, we'll remember, okay, we have to read this.
Okay, okay, I will share.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So like you see, representation of the research process, entire process. Where does it start? Mute చేస్తారా? Okay. So here,
Mr. Angur Kasi Viswanath, I think.
yeah,
Video. Anduguri Kasi, Mr.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
Please mute your. Yeah, your voice is getting disturbed.
right.
Thank you, sir.
So, what is this entire research process? How do we have to carry out the research? So here you see, first one is research area. Again, to make it clear to you all, I am going to use my own research title. Okay. One research title I would say is locus of control, barriers to self-care, and barriers to self-care, locus of control, quality of life, social support. This is very fresh. Rather than using my research topic, which is age old, I'm using my scholar's research topic. So she took 4 variables: locus of control, perceived locus of control, barriers experienced, social support. How did these 3 have any link with the quality of life of the type 2 diabetic women? Okay, for your ease of understanding, I will just type it in the chat box. The topic is perceived locus of control, quality of life, social support, and okay. So just look at this. Perceived locus of control, barriers to self-care, social support, and quality of life in type 2 diabetes women. That is the topic. Now, we need to understand what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable. Okay. Now, locus of control, whether I have total control of my own condition or no, right? And what are the barriers that I am experiencing in the management of my condition? Am I really having any kind of a social support? Now, all these 3 are going to have a bearing on the quality of life I am experiencing. Now, how can we measure quality? We have standardized tools to measure all these things. Okay, so first and foremost, I would go back to the slide and here take that topic to explain all these steps to you. What is my research area? Any guesses? How can you tell me with the help of the title, what is my research area?
Diabetes.
My research area will be health psychology.
Okay.
Okay. My research area is health psychology and more specifically diabetes. Okay. Now, how do I arrive at my topic? I will set a certain context. I will say that women do not get enough social support because women experience many more barriers when compared to men. Women may feel that their disease is not in their hands. They will look for support from outside. Okay, so women may differ on all these parameters and hence may experience a poor quality of life. That is the context I have in my mind. Now, what is literature? Literature refers to the research that has been done earlier. Okay, so what is the kind of proof we have in earlier research? So now my topic is decided. I want to see all these things. I don't want to take men into my research because there is enough research that is available and common sense also says that they have women in the family to support them, manage their diabetes condition. But do really women have the support to manage their diabetes condition? And men are more aware of various things than women. All this is going by common sense and logic. Okay, so that is why I don't want to test on men. I want to test only on women. Okay, even in women, what I want to do, I want to compare between urban women and rural women. I want to compare between employed women and unemployed women. Okay, so all these things I want to compare between the age groups also into which they fall. Right. So now my topic is clear. I have framed my questions. Now I will identify the design for my research. What is this research design? Research design is nothing but deciding upon various aspects. Who's going to be my data? What is the approach? Is it a positivist approach or the phenomenological approach? If it is a positivist approach, what approach again? What are the tools that I'm going to use? Then is it a cross-sectional or a longitudinal study? My scholars has been a cross-sectional study, right? And how am I going to use gather the data? I will gather all the data. What are the standardized tools I am using? Explain all that. What is the scoring procedure? Right? You will collect the data and then finish the scoring. Then you will do the analysis of data with the help of SPSS or whichever software you are comfortable with. And then you will answer the questions. So you are first arriving at the research design. In the sense you are identifying the problem. You are giving all the, your handbook will clearly say, give the operational definitions of the variables that you have considered for the study. So you will conceptualize, you will come up with a theoretical framework, right? And then I am not so prepared, otherwise I could have shared the theoretical framework of my scholar. You will see that all the three independent variables are on one side. All of them, each of them has an impact on the quality of life. And there is something else also that influences the quality of life. What are those? Those could be the demographic variables. So what are these demographic variables that we consider for the study? Age of the respondent, then employment, then place, Okay, I have chosen some diabetes related 3 and patient related 5. Total 8 demographic variables have been chosen. So,
Lifestyle? No.
no, how
What
can
does
you
lifestyle?
quantify
Because it's
lifestyle? How can you quantify lifestyle? You cannot. So, birth
okay.
order could be one: firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn. So, all the firstborns could be high on locus of control, internal locus of control, because they become more independent early in life. Okay, so it's like, age. Younger generations are able to manage their condition well. It is not established. It could be the other way around also. Older generation are able to manage their condition well. How could you justify these 2 points? When you say younger generation is able to manage their condition well, we can say that education and exposure to more information is helping them manage their condition. Okay. When you arrive at a result which states older generation is able to manage their condition well, how can you justify that? They are old, they are suffering from type 2 diabetes. That means, yeah, duration of diabetes is also one thing which we can gather information about. So they have been living with the disease since so many years, and that is the reason why they are able to manage their condition well. Okay, so that's what I was saying. Research is very funny. What is right in one researcher's perspective may be wrong in another person's research perspective. But for whatever you do, you have to, whatever findings you get, you need to support your findings with the help of research that has already been established. Okay, so here in the research design area, you're going to define all these things. Then you have the sampling method. Like I said, we followed purposive sampling because we are choosing only diabetic women, and then snowball sampling because my scholar did not go to any diabetologist or an endocrine clinic. She just took one person's feedback, went to meet someone else, someone else, someone else, like that. And within her own family, she had 2 people with diabetes. She gathered data from there. Okay. So after sampling, you will, the next process is data collection. You will choose the methods of investigation for the problem and units of study. Then you have data analysis. Okay. How are you going to analyze your data? You have 2 major categories in this. You have descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. What is descriptive statistics? You just give the, in descriptive, you will talk about frequencies, you will talk about percentages, and you will also get any bar charts, pie charts, or histograms that you want to represent your data in. Okay. But in inferential statistics, you will have correlations. Now, the 4 variables that we have identified, what is the relation that is existing between these 4? What are the 4 points, 4 variables? Perceived locus of control, barriers to self-care, social support, and quality of life. Now, how are these 4 related to one another? How will we know? We will have to run correlation. Okay, so once the data is entered into SPSS, you will have a compare means tab. There you will run a correlation. What correlation you will use? Whether you will use Pearson's product moment correlation or Spearman's correlation, that you will decide depending on the kind of sample you have. Whether it is the probability sampling or non-probability sampling method you are using. If your sample is more than 100, if your sample is huge, you will go in for probability sampling method. That means there is more chance that everybody, the results you get can be generalized on the entire population. Okay, so yeah, you will run a correlation. Supposing those values, the p-value is less than 0.05, then it is said to be significant. Then you will say, depending on the results that you get, you will say, yeah, greater the social support, better is the quality of life. Actually, we get a table, correlation. Just wait, if I can draw a correlation table, I will see if I can extract one. Or let me finish it off. I will show it to you later. Okay. Now, all these are data analysis methods. Okay. Descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. By descriptive, you are getting the frequencies, percentages, you are getting the maximum and minimum age or whatever of the sample. And you can also represent that in a graphical form with the help of pie charts, Venn diagrams, whatever. Inferential statistics is all about finding out the correlations, finding out if there is an association between the variables that you have considered for the study, and seeing if there is any significance difference of a particular variable on the dependent variable. Okay, so it is here that we conduct a t-test. It is here we conduct an ANOVA. It is here we conduct regression analysis. Okay, so what does correlation tell you? Correlation tells us if there is any relationship between the variables we have considered for the study. What does a t-test tell you? A t-test tells us if a particular variable has a significant difference on the dependent variable. For example, I do a t-test on does employment have any influence on quality of life? Why do we use only a t-test? A t-test is used when your variable is divided into two categories. So instances where the variable is divided into two categories is gender, male and female. You want to make a comparison. So how can you do that? You have to run a independent samples t-test. Okay, then all those questions that have yes and no, again a t-test. Urban, rural, a t-test. Okay, but when do you run ANOVA? When your variable is divided into more than two. For example, age range. Say the sample that I have collected data from a lady who is 30 years of age is the least age, minimum age of my sample, maximum age of my sample is 80. Okay, so 30 to 80. What is the difference between the two? Now let us say 30 to 70. Now, how do I make a comparison, or how do I prove that age has a significant difference on the quality of life? How can I understand this? So I will break this minimum maximum into different groups. I will make 4 groups, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and 60 to 70. How many groups I got? I got 4 groups. Now, depending on the age, how is the quality of life of the diabetic women? Right? So now I'm going to compare them on the means that I get out of running the statistics. So now you understand what are the different data analysis that we are doing, different methods we are following. One is descriptive analysis, second is inferential analysis. In descriptive, you are giving them only the frequencies, percentages, then representing in different bar charts. You can also make crosstabs in that. What is crosstabs? Supposing you are considering male and female, employed and unemployed. So by running crosstabs, you can get how many of the male are employed and how many of the male are unemployed. Similarly, in female, how many of them are employed and how many of them are unemployed. You can get all these in numbers. Okay, and then whether you have got significant results or not, you will analyze your results, you will write your report. Okay, so first one will be your research statement or hypothesis. You will start off with a rough research idea. You will write a research statement or hypothesis, your research outline. So how are you going to gather information? whether you are going to participate, going to follow participant observation or interviews or questionnaires or documentary analysis or any other method. So what are your sources of information? What is the research design you are adopting? You're getting the information, you're recording the data, you will analyze the data, and with all the data that you have analyzed, you will finally write your paper and then send it for publication. Okay? Now, why research? If you feel it is important, your approach will be one. If you feel you're burdened to go through all this, you will do things for doing sake. So really identify whether you want to understand research or not. So here you see it's all a cyclical process. Any revisions that need to be done can be done at any point in time. Okay. So I think I have gone for very long. We will take a small break now. Okay? And how much time do we have? Or shall we really break at 11 o'clock? I can finish off that PowerPoint.
It's okay, ma'am. Only 7 minutes left, no? Let's
Huh.
take a break, ma'am.
Okay. I hope it wasn't too much for you all.
No, not at
No,
all.
ma'am, it's
Quite
interesting,
interesting.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. And then we meet at 11:15 then.
fine.
Yeah, ma'am.
11:15 or
Yes, ma'am.
11:20. Just take half an hour's break.
Okay,
Sure,
ma'am.
sure.
So it's 10:55 now. We will meet at 11:25.
Done.
Okay, I'll set an alarm for myself.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay,
bye
ma'am.
bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
ఆ పవర్ పాయింట్ ప్రెజెంటేషన్ లో మీరు రైట్ సైడ్ బాటమ్ లో
Okay, sir.
120% అని ఉంది కదా మేడం,
అవునవును
దాన్ని
చిన్న
డిక్రీజ్ చేయండి మేడం. 100 చేస్తే ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ లో కనిపిస్తుంది టోటల్ స్లైడ్.
రైట్ రైట్
ఓకే మేడం, we will be
రైట్
back.
సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఏం ముచ్చమ్మ వస్తున్నావు మధ్యాహ్నం ఇటు?
Hi, I am back. Are you all back?
Yeah, we're back, madam. Back.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Great.
ma'am,
Yes.
ప్రీవియస్ క్లాసెస్ ఎలా చూడాలంటే ఎలా మేడం?
అది ఆర్సీ వాళ్ళు అదే రీజనల్ సెంటర్ వాళ్ళు రికార్డ్ చేశారా లేదా ఒకసారి కనుక్కోండి. రికార్డింగ్ యాక్సెస్ మీకు ఇస్తారంటే మీరు చూడొచ్చు.
ఓకే, అంటే ఎవరిని కనుక్కోవాలి మేడం? అది కన్సల్ట్ చేయాలి.
ఇప్పుడు మనకి
హలో,
ఉన్నారు కదా.
రికార్డింగ్ అయితే చేస్తున్నా సార్. మీకు మేము అన్ని క్లాసులు అయిపోయిన తర్వాత ఎంపీసీ 7 కూడా అయిపోయిన తర్వాత అందరికి ఒకేసారి కామన్ గా పెడతా.
ఓకే ఓకే
ఎలా సార్, అది యూట్యూబ్ లో ఇస్తారా?
లేదు, గూగుల్ లింక్ ఇస్తాను. యూట్యూబ్ లో అంటే చాలా 2 GB పైన అవుతుంది. 4 hours లెంత్ కదా అది.
అదేనండి, మిస్ అయిన
గూగుల్ లింక్ మీరు విజిట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు.
ఇప్పుడు మిస్ అయిన క్లాసెస్ చూడాలి కదా సార్, పాతవి అందుకోసం.
అదే ఇస్తానండి, మొత్తం అన్ని కలిపి ఒకేసారి ఇస్తాను.
ఓకే సార్, లింక్ పెడతారా?
అందరికీ లింక్ పెడతా కామన్ గానే. అది డౌన్లోడ్ చేయడానికి 2 GB పైన అవుతుంది ఒక్కొక్క క్లాసుని. కాబట్టి గూగుల్ లింక్ ఇస్తాను, మీరు అక్కడి నుంచి మీరు చూసుకోవడానికి కుదురుతుంది.
ఓకే సార్, ఇవ్వండి సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఓకే,
రైట్ సార్.
So can we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I am still in continuation with the presentation that I was having. It is more of a general perspective I am going to give you towards the entire paper of research methodology. So, yeah. So here we have identified different stages of research, right? From the time you choose your topic to the time that you finish writing your research paper and getting it published, there are multiple stages. So this picture is indicative of the fact that research itself is cyclical and you can enter at almost any point. This is a never-ending process and will cause you to reconsider your practice and will return you to a different starting place. So for instance, you see choosing topic, okay? You are thinking about methods. So far you know about only one method. Say for example, you know only about one method, that is the questionnaire method, and you will want to give the questionnaires to your respondents and gather information. But you in one of your discussions with your guide, you will say, or your guide will say, you also ask some questions like this in addition to giving them the questionnaires. So what are you doing there? When you are asking questionnaires, you are interviewing them, right? So whether it is a structured interview or an unstructured interview, we do not know. So in addition to using your questionnaires, you're also using another method, that is the interview method. So once you set off with quantitative method, you are including another qualitative method here. Okay, then when you are reading for research, now I listed out 4 variables. I said locus of control, barriers to self-care, social support, and quality of life. When I am reading research, I am having lot of information on these variables, but there is another variable where there is a lot of emerging research. So adding that variable to my study will give me more credibility, will give me more scope to perform my research. So here my reading for research will change. Instead of just focusing on 4 variables, I now add another variable, which is diabetic distress. Okay, how did the diabetic distress come into my topic? When I was going through the review of literature. What is review of literature? It is about all the research that is done on the topic of our interest during the earlier times. Okay, where can you do review of literature? You can do review of literature in Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Web of Science, okay, and ProQuest or JSTOR. All these are places or platforms where you can research for your variables considered for the study. Then collection of data. Here, while you are collecting your data, if you feel, okay, something else could have been added, you should be in a position to add that. How can you do that? So in the beginning itself, it is viable to think of n number of options, collect the data, because going back will be, it is possible, going back is possible, but it will be a very tedious process. So it is definitely ideal to have a wide scope of variables considered, like the demographic details. Okay, so supposing after doing everything, you will feel I should have taken that income aspect also. Maybe their socio-economic status will give me an information about their quality of life. Okay, so we have to think well in advance as to what may be useful while we are while we are gathering the data. Okay, then analyzing the data. Here in psychology, we make use of SPSS, and I was talking about that correlation, t-test, ANOVA, regression, all these. And in addition to that also, whether to use the parametric test for your analysis or go in for non-parametric test will depend on the sample size. And in SPSS also, we have a test called the Shapiro-Wilk test, which will establish whether you have to use parametric or non-parametric tests. Okay, so all these are initial stages while you analyze your data. Once you get the output from the SPSS that you run, then you will write up your research paper. How will you write up your research paper? That is there in your project handbook. I think page number 42, if I'm not wrong. Everything is laid out in very, very clear terms. One thorough reading you give to that sample synopsis, and you will understand how you have to write a particular synopsis. And if your synopsis is approved, that you will have to convert into your project report. How do you have to write your project report? Okay, nothing. Research is something that needs to be validated with the evidence that is available through earlier studies. So even if you define something, you will have to state from where you have defined it. Supposing mine is health psychology, so I'm starting with health definition. So I will write the definition of health, and within brackets I will say WHO has given this definition. So WHO, and which version did I add? 2005, 2018, 2019, right? This is the in-text citation. Now this has to reflect in my reference section. Now, how do you have to put this in-text citation in the reference section? You will have the APA format. This APA format 6 is what we used to follow, but an updated version, the APA 7, has come up, where it gives us all information about how to do referencing in your project report. Okay, American Psychological Association has laid out certain stringent rules. You may take information from textbooks, you may take information from journal articles, you may take information from conference proceedings, you may take information from any website, and you may also take information from videos. APA gives you the guidelines for referencing in a very, very lucid manner, and you can just go through that and do your referencing accordingly. 1 or 2 sentences of our opinions is accepted, but majority of the chunk should be cited correctly. Okay, so this is this is actually set out to PhD scholars. Now here's an interesting research that has been done, which I shared with them, and I want to share with you all only. The power of research. Okay, how systematic research has to be in order to arrive at something concrete. So this is just an indication of how, and the kind of magnitude that companies invest in order to arrive at a certain output. So the emojis that we are making use of in Facebook or Instagram or any social media platform, yeah, we will predominantly talk about Facebook, which is now Meta. See, that thumbs up is the characteristic symbol of Facebook, right? So, how did they arrive at these icons? How did they arrive at these final 5 to 6 emoticons? So, from the 125 to 25 to the famous 5, how did Facebook's new emojis took form? Okay, so how did they come about all this? You can see the entire cyclical research process in this work. Facebook used data from a user-based research project to zero in on 7 reactions, which were further whittled down to 5 after testing. So the Facebook that like symbol, the thumbs up symbol, is synonymous with the brand and has been there since February 2009. So when the social media behemoth launched Facebook reactions in February 2016, it came as a surprise to one and all. See, there have to be features added on. Otherwise, people would just migrate from one platform to another. If you all remember, these platforms started initially, we used to use Orkut, Google's Orkut. But Orkut became obsolete, paving the way for Facebook, right? After Facebook, we have many other social media platforms, but predominant ones are Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, and yeah, a few others, right? So now what is a new feature in Facebook? Not new feature, but yeah, you can call, you can talk through Facebook, you can video call through Facebook. This is possible in Insta, this is possible in WhatsApp, okay? And having stories, okay? Having reels. All these are additive features that will keep the public engaged with the platform. Okay, so the introduction of 5 reactions. What are those 5 reactions? Love, anger, wow, laughter, sadness. These generated a lot of discussion both online and offline. A year and a half later, these reactions have become ubiquitous. Few would know that it took over a year of research and design engineering for Facebook to come up with these. As popular as it is, the sole like option did not go with a lot of posts. So we reached out to users asking them what they would want to use instead, said Satyajit Singh, who handles product partnerships at Facebook of India. He highlighted the importance of user research in building a product or a feature. So that has now become a huge market, product management, right? Supposing you're using your AirPods, depending on the user experience, the company will know what changes it has to make in the next version that it is going to release. Okay, so similarly here the user research in building a product or feature for future has been used. So here Singh said the first step of building reactions is to reach out to users asking what emotions they wish to use instead of like. The company's primary research yielded a list of 125 emotions, said Singh, which were shortlisted to 25. The Facebook team then went back to look at data they had collected on short comments of either a few words or an emotion or GIF to assess which emotions users wanted most to express. Our research and data showed users were looking for options which were somewhere between a like and a comment. From this, we zeroed in on 7 reactions, which were further whittled down to 5 after testing. The next challenge was localizing reactions across geographies because Facebook, Insta, all these are platforms regardless of the place from which we are operating them. Since the same things can have different meanings across countries and languages. Love reaction, for instance, could be interpreted in several ways. Localizing reactions for all languages was challenging, so we went back to data and found that reactions got more engagement when displayed with labels. So all this is a constant engagement with the users. Okay, so all reactions were launched with labels like love, haha. I think all of you are familiar with the emojis that we see on Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because a symbol can otherwise be interpreted in many ways. While the team was researching and analyzing the data, few prototypes, few models were being tested in a few markets on controlled audiences. For testing, people from different countries were selected. The countries were chosen keeping in mind the social characteristics vis-a-vis expressiveness and contentedness of its population, as also types of devices citizens use in that part of the world. That is basing on the user interface, right? So, what happened during the testing phase? There were two more emojis, a yay and a wow, which were tested in certain countries on a certain user base. They were finally dropped to avoid decision fatigue for users. Yet, another challenge was to design reactions to make them compatible with different software platforms such as Android and iOS without making the app heavy. Summing up the journey of designing Facebook reactions and elaborating on how to design emotions, Singh said, when designing products, companies must focus on asking open questions to customers and exploring their options as much as possible. So this is not my writing. This has been taken directly out of this work. Okay, so giving credit to whatever we have used in our presentation or work of publication is mandatory. Okay, so yeah, this is it. You see how much of planning, how much of revisions that has gone into the simple 5 or 6 emojis that we are effortlessly clicking when we are browsing through Facebook. Now, our phones have given us scope to use many more emojis in WhatsApp, right? But how many of us are really aware of what specific emotion is conveyed with that specific emoji? Not many of us. We generally use that clap symbol, thumbs up, sad symbol, smiling face, and that laugh symbol, right? Very few. So this is how social platforms evolve. Okay, there is some other emotion that comes up which they want to convey, so they will introduce a new emoji. That is, initially we had only the emojis. Later on we have the GIFs, right? When you earlier we used to write happy birthday, but now when we write happy birthday, the background becomes colorful. There are flowers that pop up. Okay, all these things are like making it more dynamic so that there is something fresh for the user. How will you come across all these ideas? You will come across all these ideas when you are researching, when you go back to whatever is there. And what this is what it is: prospective research and retrospective research. Prospective research and retrospective research. What is prospective? You're doing something that is there for the future. What is retrospective? You are doing something based on what has already been established. Okay, so all that these dynamic platforms make use of is prospective research. Venkata Padmini Garu, please mute yourself. Right? So now comes the final format. You will decide what to do research upon. Then you will plan a research study, conceptualize a research design. You will either, sometimes if there is no standardized tool, you can construct an instrument that is the survey instrument, and you will gather your data. Once the instrument is ready, you will finalize on whom you want to get the data. So that is your sample. You will write your research proposal, you will collect your data, you will process and display the data. Finally, you will write a research proposal. So research is done in 3 major phases: deciding on what to do, planning on how to do, and undertaking or collection of the required information. So here you see that stage 1 includes just the ideation. 2, 3, 4, 5 is all about planning. 6, 7, and 8 is about undertaking the entire research journey. So again, the same thing is clearly depicted here. You see that the first step is formulation of a research problem. Okay. So here what happens, you will consider the various variables for your study. Right? And then considerations and steps in formulating a research problem. Then goes conceptualizing a research design. But in between these 2 stages, you have the literature review. When you are doing the literature review, then itself, it's some of the studies you will come across the tools that you could be used, that you could use in your study as well. Okay. Then if you are constructing an instrument, it should be tested for reliability and validity of the tool. What is reliability and validity? That is again a major topic. So what are the methods and tools of data collection? How can you collect data? Then how can you select a sample? Here you will learn sampling theory and designs. Then writing a research proposal. Contents of the proposal. How do you collect the data? How do you process the data? And then writing a research report. Okay. So all these are crucial stages in your research study. So you will come up with your research proposal should have the research question first, then the objectives laid out, the hypothesis, what is the research and design you are following, what is the setting for your study, what are the research instruments you are using, what is the sample size, or from whom are you going to collect your data, and what is the kind of sampling design you are using. Okay. And you need to provide information on data processing procedures. Like I said, we are going to use the SPSS, Statistical Package for Social Sciences Research. Then an outline of the proposed chapters for the report, and what are the various limitations that you may come across, or what are the shortfalls of your study, and how much time are you going to accomplish this entire research in. Okay, so this is all about trying to understand what research exactly is, what research methods are, what are the various research designs, etc. Okay, is it clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will go on to, you want to ask me any questions? Any questions? Okay, we will leave the Q&A to the end of the session then. Okay? Yeah. Now we will just take your syllabus.
Mohan, Adit, Mahdev, please. Mohan, Adit.
Yes.
Yeah, please mute your mic, please, sir. It's getting sound.
I had a doubt.
Yeah, you can, but your mic is not right, I think. It is making more sound.
So, like, if you want to conduct the research and we have...
You're asking a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So if we decide a topic and how to, like, once we decide a topic for the research methodologies, and if there would be a chances where the same topic have already been done. So how to know that the topic which we choose is already done, or it is a unique topic. How to get to that point?
That's what I mentioned in the very beginning of our session today. When, see, at MA dissertation level, nobody is looking out for novelty. Okay. When you are going into further academics like your MPhil or your PhD, it is then you will have to justify what is novel in your research, because there is so much said and done about the topic that you have chosen. So it is at this juncture that your review of literature will come in very, very handy. What is this review of literature? This is the research that has been done in the areas you have chosen earlier. Okay, so this research must have been done in other countries, less done in our country. Okay, it must have been done on a certain set of population. So you can pick up another set of population. So you're bringing about a new study on a new set of population for which you do not have any information about. Okay, so your study could just, I'm talking about my area. So initially there are, when we look at, there are so many studies that have been done on diabetic patients. So how am I going to bring in a novelty into my research? I am going to make a comparison between diabetic women who belong to urban areas and who belong to rural areas. Now, do we have any studies exclusively on women? There are very few. So you take cues from those very few studies and you will design what you want to do, what you want to prove, and what you want to arrive at. And my suggestion is you don't stop there. You get it published. Okay. Just for a fleeting comment I made that MA dissertation, you can follow the beaten topics, but even that, you have to do your review of literature. And when you are doing the review of literature, there is actually a specific way in which you have to read a research article. Okay, the limitations will be there in every research. So you will identify what have been the limitations of earlier research. That limitation can become the research gap, and you can try to fill that research gap. And that way you are contributing something new to already existing body of information. Did I clarify your doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other doubts? Okay. So now we will.
Excuse me, madam.
Yeah.
Madam, what is the website's links for research? What you have said in ResearchGate and some Google Scholar.
How you have to see? Supposing you want to do your project. Okay. Shall I tell you all this? Shall I share the information?
No, madam. No, madam. Just what are the links to where we have to search in the Google?
Okay.
That is that
So
link.
you go to Google and type Google Scholar.
Okay, madam. What are the other websites?
ProQuest.
Okay.
ResearchGate. Academia.edu.
Academia.
Okay.
.edu. Then
Okay,
you have
madam.
JSTOR, JSTOR. So
Okay,
all these
JSTOR.
are repositories of research articles.
Okay, madam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now going back to the structure that is given for you all. First block is introduction to research methods. So your first unit deals with basic process or concept in research. Okay. So here we have we've dealt with what is research and all that stuff. Okay. And meanings are given, all those things. What are the criteria of good research? And the criteria of good research is, once that has been done, it should be allowed or left open for others to continue that in some way, or it is verifiable or modifiable. This kind of openness has to be there in any kind of a research. And good research is logical, and it helps in developing theories and principles. And good research is empirical. When we are saying it is empirical, we are suggesting that the conclusions drawn are based on real evidence or real observation that is gathered from real life experiences. Okay? And whatever you have done should be allowed for replication. Okay? And now there is also a rule. Once you publish your paper, you will sign a document. You will agree to their terms and conditions of the journals, saying your data will be made available for 5 years from the date of publication. Okay? Such openness has to be maintained when we are publishing any kind of a research. Then we have theories, hypotheses, and models. We have the research biases also. What are these research biases? External influences, like our own cultural influences may be there. There may be personal bias that is playing on our research. There may be an observer bias, right? And there may be an expectancy bias. And there is also the placebo bias. Like you see, when we are following the questionnaire method to collect the data, what do people generally do? They want to get a good score. Nobody wants to get a bad score, right? So, do they really give out their own feelings truthfully? They do not generally give. Okay, so that is a major drawback of a questionnaire method. Okay, just because everybody else is giving yes to an answer, like this we have discussed in last week's class, right? Just because everybody is giving yes as an answer, even if it is no, you will force yourself to say yes as the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so questionnaire has that kind of a drawback, and all these drawbacks are overcome through certain other qualitative methods. Just as there are two sides of every coin, every strategy, every technique has its own advantages and disadvantages. Then, what are the different steps in research process? We tend to identify the problem. We do the review of literature. Okay. And then we formulate the hypothesis. What is this? Formulating the hypothesis. For example, we will say social support has a relationship with quality of life. By saying social support has a relationship with quality of life, what I am trying to indicate? If the family is supportive, a person is going to experience life in better terms. Okay, I will gather the data. How do you think the outcome will be? These people are diabetic women. Okay, so that means any ways is possible. So if their social support scores are high, then their quality of life scores also should be high. Right?
Good.
When we run the correlation statistics and we compare their means, we will get 2 stars. What does that indicate? 2 stars indicate highly significant difference, and single star indicates significant difference. Single star is for P is less than 0.05, and 2 stars is P is less than 0.01. That means out of 100 cases, 95 cases they have found that social support is giving good quality of life. Okay, but which is more superior? 0.01 is more superior. Why? Because out of 100 cases, 99 cases are saying that good social support will lead to good quality of life. Okay, so this is trying to that is our objective, to see if there is any relationship between any relationship between social support and quality of life. That is our objective. What will be our hypothesis? I will write my hypothesis like this: there will be a significant difference of social support on quality of life. Okay, then if we do not get these stars in our result, it means there is no relationship. If we get this single star or double star, that means there is a relationship between the two variables. Then there can be a negative sign also, even if it is having 2 stars. What does it indicate? It indicates negative relationship. You must have read about correlation. Correlation, what is its range? It ranges from -1 to +1. Okay, its value is from -1 to +1. So negative relationship is indicative of of a inverse relationship. Okay, more the stress, lesser will be the quality of life. So your correlation value will be in negative. So more the stress the person is experiencing, poorer is going to be his quality of life. More social support the patient is getting, better quality of life she is experiencing. So what is my hypothesis here? There will be a significant difference in social support and quality of life. So depending on the result I got, I will say the hypothesis is accepted. There is a significant relationship between social support and quality of life. Okay, you have 2 types of hypothesis: the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. Generally, null hypotheses are used when your research is the first of its kind. There is no earlier research to support your hypothesis. But lots of research is done in the area, so we go ahead with the alternate hypothesis. And we always say there will be a significant difference. If you do not find a significant difference, you will say the alternate hypothesis is rejected. Okay? So yeah, that is why we need to formulate the hypothesis. We will identify, manipulate and control variables. Variables play a very, very important role. Like I said, we have taken 4 variables, right? What are they? Locus of control, barriers to self-care and social support. All these 3 will in a way or other have an impact or a relationship or an association with quality of life. Okay, so I will have 4 different hypotheses, and it is not just these 4. I will also have to see if there is a difference in gender, if there is a difference in their employment, if there is a difference in their place, if there is a difference in their age range, if there is a difference in the duration of diabetes, if there is a difference in the way they are experiencing complications. We all know that diabetes brings along with it a slew of complications, but it is not necessary that these complications be there in every individual. Okay, so more the number of complications, lesser will be the quality of life. Okay, such kinds of associations will be established and will be either accepted or rejected depending on the data analysis, depending on the results that you achieve. So then you will have to discuss all those results. Now, if there is a positive correlation between the 2 variables, How will you support? You got a finding and you will say, I have accepted my hypothesis. There is a significant difference. Better social support leads to better quality of life. How will you support your not discovery? How will you support your result? Again, you will go back to the literature that is available. You will state that in this research, we have found it like this. Similar kind of results have been arrived at by so and so, and they have done on this sample. So like I told you, you need to justify every point that you are making in research when you are writing a paper, when you are writing your project. So you will find at least some support in whatever you have, whatever kind of results you have arrived at. So you will just justify your observation there. Okay, so hypothesis is a probable statement. You are either going to accept it or reject it. Then the research design, I think we have touched upon data analysis and their interpretation. We will have to draw conclusions, and once the conclusions are drawn, we will have to show the direction for future research. Okay, and what happened out of our research? We said that yes, the rural women need to be educated more. They should understand the importance of visiting a specialist rather than just go to the primary healthcare center and take the medicines that are being provided by the government. Supposing some rural women experience a lot of complications, just that medication will not suffice. Okay, they will have to treat the complication as well. So all these things have to be considered and taken into purview. What are the implications? All these things have to be discussed in detail when you are writing your report. So that is as far, yeah, what is the importance of research in psychology? Why should you first of all do research in psychology? Now, psychology has become such a vast area. More than the pure part of it, there is a lot of demand for the application part of the subject. Right? We are studying abnormal psychology, which is also called psychopathology. What is the application side of that subject? Clinical psychology. Okay. We are talking so much about health psychology. Health psychology is an out and out applied branch. Sports psychology, military psychology, all these are applied branches. We have very few pure branches, like general psychology, abnormal psychology, and see, the social psychology that we study is also an applied branch. But there is a good amount of theoretical component to it. And that theory gave birth to advanced social psychology. Okay. So that is about the first unit. Your second unit talks about reliability and validity. Now, what is reliability and what is validity? Like we said, we are going to use some kinds of standardized tools in our research. We may not always have these standardized tools. Then we are developing some questions on our own and administering it to our sample. The same thing should be made available for others also. Okay, the same test. Now, when it is available for others, when it is measuring the same as it did for you, then it is said to be reliable. But is it so easy to establish the reliability of a specific survey format or a specific tool? It is not that easy. How should it be done? You will first write down the questions on which you want to test your sample and say it is 10 questions. You will now give this 10 questions to 200 people. Remember, when you are establishing the reliability of any tool, it has to be done in huge numbers. You will first give it to 200 people. You will tabulate the results, see the pattern. Then the same instrument will be given to 500 other people. And remember, in that 500, none of these 200 people who have taken the test first should be there. Okay? Then you will get certain kind of results. You make a comparison of these two results. Then you can remove or include or add more, do all such kinds of things, and then finally test your instrument on a separate 300 sample. So you will observe that there is a pattern in which all of them are responding. Okay, so by reliability, we will state that a test has to measure the same dimension. For instance, if I take a quality of life test, if I take it today, the result I will get on it today is recorded. The result I will get later also will be recorded. Both should be more or less closer to one another. Okay. So, and what is validity? If a test says that it is measuring quality of life, it has to measure quality of life. It should not include those items which are not indicative of quality of life. Okay, so we have different types of reliability and validity. So when establishing reliability of any device, there are two major procedures. One is the external consistency procedure and another is the internal consistency procedure. What is this external consistency? I just now told you, say I take a test on 5th December. I get a certain score. I take the test on 5th June. I have to get a score that is closer. Okay. So when the test gives me such kind of a result, then it is considered as reliable. That means the test and retest scores are in line. So your item is a reliable item to be used. Okay. Another way in which we could establish reliability is making use of parallel forms or alternate forms. It is just like using the active voice and passive voice. Rama killed Ravana. Ravana was killed by Rama. So same wording should not be used, but ultimate meaning has to be the same. So this is called the alternate method or the parallel form method. This helps in establishing the reliability of a particular study. We also have another method called the split half method. What is this split half method? This is within the questionnaire. Say the questionnaire has 20 items. Number 1 to 10 is one set, 11 to 20 is another set. Say question number 1 is measuring something. Your question number 11 also will measure the same thing. Question number 2 measures a certain component. Number 12 will measure the same component. So you are splitting your questionnaire into two. Split half method. 1 to 10 give you a certain measure. 11 to 20 also should give you a similar measure. When the questionnaire does like that, you will say it is high on reliability. Okay. So we have the parallel forms, the alternate forms, and the external consistency and internal consistency of reliability. A test can be said reliable if it meets all these criteria. You cannot use tests that are not having good reliability values. How can you check the reliability of a questionnaire? Each and every component in the questionnaire will be run through certain analysis, factor analysis. which will give you a value, a correlation value. Like I said, the range of correlation is -1 to +1. So if it is having, if the value is above 0.05 and above, then we can consider it as a good enough instrument, reliable enough instrument. Okay. Then we have validity and different types of validity. We have content validity, construct validity, face validity, internal validity, external validity. All these are different types of validity. Okay. So you can just go through what is this entire paper is theoretical paper. So you will not find much of a difficulty. You can just, with this exposure, I think whenever you read through, you will be able to understand what everything is all about. There are these reliability and validity is a very important topic. One question is mandatory out of this, I feel. So you try to define what is reliability, try to define what is validity, identify the different types of reliability, identify the different types of validity. Okay. Yeah. Next unit is about variables and constructs. What are variables and what are constructs? Variables are something that keep changing. Okay. So here in our case, we discussed about 4 variables that have been considered for the study. In your sample synopsis, you will find that forgiveness, gratitude, and life satisfaction. These are the 3 variables that have been considered for the study. Okay. And here when forgiveness and gratitude will be your independent variable and life satisfaction will be your dependent variable. So your dependent variable is going to change on the basis of your independent variable. So you get to study what different variables are all about. Okay, categorical variables, continuous variables, all quantitative variables are called categorical variables. All continuous variables are, quantitative and categorical variables, yeah, independent and dependent variables, extraneous variables. In addition to these variables, there are going to be some other variables which are called the intervening variables. Suppose you want to study the impact of music on the speed at which work is done. Okay, so you will have music playing and how quickly the people are able to perform the task that you will record. Some are not able to perform well than compared to others. If the study is done across the country, what is the reason? You want to see if there is an impact of any other intervening variable. So what could be another intervening variable there? Temperature. Okay. So to prove a point that there is a relationship between your music and output of your work, you should have no intervening variables. That means temperature also should be conducive. It should not be too hot. If it is too hot, your result will be affected because you are more worried about the sweating and huffing and puffing, and you will not concentrate on the output. So when you are doing any kind of a research, you should ensure that all the effect of the intervening variables is ruled out or is kept at a minimum. Then only you will be able to understand the real impact or real association between the independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay, so your third unit, you're going to learn about variables and different types of constructs, and fourth unit talks about hypothesis, how to formulate a hypothesis, what is a null hypothesis and what is an alternative hypothesis, what are the types of errors that occur when you are testing a hypothesis, right? And it also talks about sampling. Now, what is the purpose of sampling? We understood why we have to take a certain small set of the population. It is literally impossible to conduct your research on an entire population range. So you will select a sample that is representative of the population. Okay. When you are taking a representative size of the population in the form of a sample, the results you get will also be generalizable. So it is the normal probability sampling method that gives an equal chance to everybody to become a part of the study. So when you get the results out of such a study, the results you get can also be generalized to the entire population. And it is here that you can make use of the parametric tests. Otherwise, the results you get will be limited only to the sample that you have. This is going to be a limitation, and you can turn your limitation into further recommendation for research. You will say the study has been done on a limited population. The same could be done with a larger population size so that the results could be generalized to the entire population. Okay, so this is about sampling using the tests, parametric and non-parametric. Why is it important to go in for the sampling method? Sampling method is there for any kind of a research, whether it is quantitative or qualitative. Sampling has to be done. You should also identify or justify why you are using only a certain kind of a sampling method. That is about, all those. Then your second block talks about reliability and validity. Like we discussed in brief, what is reliability and what is validity. There are, it also talks about survey research. What is this survey research? We come up with different questions. Surveys are tools that help us in collecting data, and there are different types of survey research. And one is you can give them structured questions, like you have options like Likert scale. What is a Likert scale? Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Okay, so the range is from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So it is 5 on a scale of 5. You will have to give a response for a particular statement. This is the Likert scale. So how do you design all these things? Are you going to use a structured questionnaire? Are you going to use an unstructured questionnaire? What are the precautions that you will take when you are designing these instruments? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the survey research method that you are using? Okay. Then next one is about ex post facto research. So what exactly is this ex post facto research? What is the difference between experimental research and ex post facto research? All these things are given very much in detail in your notes that IGNOU has provided you with. Then unit 3 is about experimental research. It talks about field experiment. Okay, how can you construct the field experiment? Sometimes what happens is you do not want naturalistic observation is one of the styles, field observation. Right? What happens when someone knows that you are the researcher and you are doing some research on them? Will they be their normal self? They will not be their normal self. They will always try to put their best foot forward, best picture forward. So what kind of results are you getting? You're not getting original results. That is not the aim of your entire research. So when you're going in field observation, generally you become a part of the entire group and tend to make observations and get your own interpretations. So this again is dealt with in a very, very extensive manner. What are the various kinds of research designs you have to conduct field experiments? Then case study method also you have. So each method is dealt with as a lesson. This is block 2. Then unit 3 is all about variables and constructs, and unit 4 is all about qualitative research and psychology. So in qualitative research, here there is so much to understand. What is the meaning of qualitative research? There is a comparison between qualitative and quantitative, and what is the meaning of ethnography, right? Types of this ethnographic research. It's not here, you no longer make use of standardized material. You go become a part of the sample that you want to study, and then you either conduct structured interviews or semi-structured interviews, gather the information. And here it is like identifying themes. Here also there are different methods in which you could handle your research topic. Okay, there is content analysis. Case study is one method, ethnography is one method. When you are doing content analysis, you look for certain themes and you keep on interviewing people till you are saturated, in the sense you are not getting any new information from a new interview. Till that time you have to keep on interviewing the person. So one advantage with quantitative is you have everything in numbers. Okay, my sample size has to be 389. I'm going to gather data minimum from 389 people. If possible, you can collect more than that, right? But in qualitative, depending on the method you have chosen for your research, if you have chosen interview as one of the methods, you need to keep on interviewing those people till you hit a saturation point where you are unable to extract any new information that would contribute to your research positively. Okay. So yeah, here you have all that. Then unit 2 talks about grounded theory. Okay, here they talk about coding. So qualitative, first of all, I so far am a quantitative research person. I still handle numbers. I'm still learning how to do SPSS fluently, all these things. But at the same time, I'm also trying to learn what is qualitative research. Okay, there's so much depth in qualitative research. Like I said, quantitative anybody can do, but qualitative is like a tightrope walk, because the researcher's opinion should not come into it. The researcher is representing the voice of the sample that he is studying. For example, let us take displacement. Okay, what is displacement? A new project is coming up. So the government has decided to send these people staying in that area, provide them homes elsewhere. Okay, so will these people like the move or they will not like the move? There is all possibility that they will not like the move. There is going to be some resistance for this displacement.
Of course, yes.
Right? So what will we study there? The psychological aspects of displacement, how it has disrupted the lives of that particular tribe, that particular community. Okay, so what is the researcher doing? The researcher believes that this displacement will bring about a lot of psychological impact on them. But how will it be studied? It will be studied through interviews. And whose representation will be made in the report, research report? Representation of the people belonging to that area. Okay, even though it is the opinion of the researcher, all that is worded there will be that of the participants in the research. So indeed, the material that is provided by IGNOU is very, very exhaustive and complete in all aspects. right? Another form of qualitative research is discourse analysis. Okay, remember I was talking about content analysis. So here you will have certain themes that you need to identify. And last is about reporting and evaluating in qualitative research. Each kind of research, whether it is quantitative or qualitative, has a standard format in which the results are to be reported. As far as quantitative research is concerned, the way the tables have to be depicted in your research project book is also laid out by APA. Okay, the referencing that we do is done in APA style. The tables we have to report should be done in APA style. And yeah, when you're describing your data, that also needs to be done in a specific format. You will have to state the mean value and the standard deviation, and you will have to state at what level it is significant. So there is a stipulated format in which your results have to be shared in your research submission. So you have certain guidelines for quantitative research. You have similar kind of a guidelines for qualitative research as well. Okay, the time is now 12:30. I had just taken you fleetingly over all the 4 blocks and spent a lot of time in general on making you all understand what research is, what are the different types of research. Okay. I hope this input will help you in reading through the entire text of your research methodology. I leave the house now for discussion. Any doubts you have, any clarifications? There is one textbook by A.K. Singh, Tests and Research Methods, I think. That's a very good book.
What is it, ma'am?
A.K. Singh, one second, let me find out. Arun Kumar Singh, tests and yeah, tests, measurements, and research methods in behavioral sciences. Tests, measurements, and research methods in behavioral sciences, put forth by written by A.K. Singh. Gives you a lot of information.
Madam, please repeat.
Tests, measurements, and research methods in behavioral sciences. Arun Kumar Singh. Yeah, Dheeraj Garu already shared the link. You can buy it in Amazon. Otherwise, the information given in your book also is good enough. Your entire block 1 to block 4, that also is exhaustive information.
Ma'am, can we refer C.R. Kothari's research
Yes.
methodology?
Yes, definitely.
A few
Good
more
evening,
books,
ma'am.
madam.
One at a time. One of you, please.
Ma'am, I am from MAPC, ma'am. So, ma'am,
Yes.
my question is, ma'am, for surveying, ma'am, if you are going for questionnaire method, so in
Yeah.
that we are having setting scales, right, ma'am, 11 scale, that is 5-pointer scale, 7-point scale. So,
Yeah.
what's the criteria to set the scale, ma'am, at the time of research, ma'am?
See, you at the time of research work, that is a standard style that you can use. That is called the Likert scale. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are choosing the 5-point scale, like I said, you will have to be able to clearly identify so that it can be quantified later. How? 1, you will put strongly agree. 2, you will put agree. 3, you will put neutral. 4, you will put disagree. And 5,
ma'am.
you will put strongly
Strongly
disagree.
disagree. Okay, ma'am.
So you know that, I mean, this is the possibility of the responses that a person can give,
Okay, ma'am.
right? If you are not happy with this range, you can make it a 7-point scale.
Sure, ma'am.
So what can you introduce here? Strongly disagree, somewhat disagree,
Okay, ma'am.
disagree, neutral, agree, somewhat agree, and somewhat strongly agree.
Okay, ma'am.
Once you are adding more, you are just adding to the confusion of the person.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, the reason is to understand whether if you're going for 5-point Likert scale or 7-point Likert scale, will that be like implying on the result of our study, ma'am?
Generally, it does. See, that is the basic drawback of a questionnaire.
Okay, ma'am.
Do everybody really read everything and respond? Once you analyze the kind of responses you have got from people, you will see that majority of them have picked the neutral one. Okay. So
Okay, ma'am.
there has to be a lot of readiness on the part of the participant as well to read carefully and then
Okay, ma'am.
ponder and then answer. So generally when we are giving out the questionnaire, we will tell them, don't think too much on a single question. Please
Okay, ma'am.
the immediate response that strikes your mind.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
right. Sir Kasigaru, you wanted to ask something.
A few more suggested textbooks on the same paper, madam.
మీ IGNOU మెటీరియల్లో రెఫరెన్సెస్ ఉంటాయి కదండి.
అంటే ఓవరాల్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ యూనిట్ వైజ్ కాకుండా
ఓవరాల్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ మేజర్గా ఈ ఏకే సింగ్ అండ్ కొఠారి ఆర్ గుడ్. కొన్ని ఫారెన్ ఆథర్స్ ఉన్నారు, అది నాకు వెంటనే గుర్తు రావట్లేదు. ఐ హావ్ టు లుక్ అండ్ షేర్.
ఓకే,
నేను ఈ మాట్లాడే ప్రాసెస్ లో చేసి ఇక్కడ చాట్ బాక్స్ లో పెడతాను.
ఓకే మ్యామ్.
ఇంకా ఏమైనా ఎనీబడి వాంట్స్ టు ఆస్క్ ఎనీథింగ్?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ma'am, actually, majority of the student, I not devote much of my time to understanding details, but as a evaluator also, what are the things that you
Your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Is it okay, ma'am?
Yeah. Go on.
What kind of mistakes can students of psychology commit?
Can you please type your question in the chat box? Can you please type your question in the chat box? Tirumal Reddy garu, are you typing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Actually, I have written down the name of the textbook somewhere. So, Oh, he left the meeting.
Some connectivity issue maybe.
Yeah. I'm just, no, very recently someone has requested for additional textbooks, the updated versions of the textbooks we are using. So I
Okay.
have noted down the relevant authors and all, but it's not in my mind. I'm just
That's
trying
okay,
to
ma'am.
search.
You can just ping us at your free time.
If I find it, I can right away share in the chat box, right? So anything else you all would want to know?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you shared during the class the diabetic impact on rural and what all we have done research regarding that or published paper. Give us some light, some
Some?
so that we can just go through and get to know some details of it.
Can you please be more audible?
Yes, ma'am. Like I'm just saying, like you already done the research on diabetic and rural.
Yes.
Right. So, any research papers which you have already submitted or published once, the white papers, so that we can just go through the documents and get to know what published once. And if at all any doubt, maybe we have some interaction.
The best thing would be just go to any of these platforms and type the variables. You'll get n number of studies. My papers, I mean, I'm not an active publisher. I was actively involved in the administrative work as well. So all I could do was just guide my scholar.
Okay.
So I have only two publications on that topic, I think. But yeah, my PhD work is also there in Elsevier publication. So probably you could type my name in Google and you will find one or two articles. Okay, it's not a very active profile and a very encouraging looking profile, but yeah, you can still try. You would find a better quality researchers. Yeah, I don't say that I am a bad one, but yeah. Ma'am, can you please highlight some common misconceptions and misunderstandings committed by students in this paper? You mean research methodology? Tirumala garu, research methodology?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Common misconceptions. I mean, I am not talking too much like misconceptions, misunderstandings, and etc. But I would want to just talk about the outlook you have towards this paper, because the moment you listen to this clause, you have to clear paper 5 and paper 6. Otherwise, you cannot do your synopsis and project. That itself will give you a kind of fear about these two papers. Okay, I would suggest as a social science students, have an open mind. We are doing so much, we are studying so much, we are reading so much about various concepts. Try to develop a critical thinking mind regarding the how, why, where, when, what, all those things. When you try to analyze a concept on these lines, I think your interest will be ignited towards that particular aspect or subject or whatever. That is how I got totally interested in research methodology. Now, I don't want to get into statistics because the software has made it extremely easy for us. Right? So, there are quite a number of students who ask me, ma'am, please make statistics paper easy for us. I'll tell them, I am on the same page as you all are. But one free piece of advice from my end is, Be thorough with the theoretical part of paper 6. Be thorough with the theoretical paper, theoretical part of paper 6, so that you can handle half of it well. Coming to the numerical part. When you are preparing for the numericals, you will learn the procedure, you will learn the process. So you will gain marks for the process you have followed and the procedure you have followed. Where you might lose out is on arriving at the final answer. So yeah, it is a bit difficult numerical part, but remember, once we are doing this research, software will handle hundreds of numbers. But once you are answering the question paper, the sample size is not too big. It is quite doable. So I would suggest one easy trick to finish your paper is, when you are having 5 units, or how many blocks you have? You have 4 blocks,
4
right?
blocks. Yes, ma'am.
You
4
have
blocks.
4 blocks. Be thorough with 3 blocks. The 4th block, you can just leave it this way, that way. But please be prepared with theory of all the 4 blocks. Understand the procedure. Whether you arrive at the final answer or no is a different matter. You understand what has to be done with the data that is given to you. So it will involve remembering of the formulae, etc. Right? I don't know if I have answered your question right, Tirumala Garu. Misconceptions ante these 2 papers are difficult. It is just a myth. They are not difficult. They are very, very easy and interesting. I think out of the 36 people, minus 3 of us who have attended today, I am happy if I have ignited the minds of at least one person in the direction of research. That's all. That is what I am looking at. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I am inspired, ma'am.
You are inspired. Good.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would suggest, Mohan Garu was asking, paper share చేయమని ఒకటి వెళ్ళి గూగుల్లో సంగీత బ్రహ్మడిపాటి అని కొడితే ఏవో పేపర్స్ వస్తాయి. బట్ నా పేపరే అని కాకుండా మీకు ఏ ఏరియాలో ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉందో అది గూగుల్ స్కాలర్లో టైప్ చేయండి. You will find lot of work that is done in that area. Okay? And then you can read through what they have done, how they have done. To get one article published is not easy. అందుకే we will have a lot of predatory journals and ఇప్పుడు ఏది యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తున్నారంటే స్కోపస్ పబ్లికేషన్స్ ఆర్ వెబ్ ఆఫ్ సైన్స్ పబ్లికేషన్స్. ఫర్ దోస్ పీపుల్ ఇన్ ద మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఏరియా దే హ్యావ్ ఏబిడిసి. ఆల్ దీస్ ఆర్ గ్రేడ్స్ అన్నమాట. ఇప్పుడు ఇండియాలోనే వీ హ్యావ్ యూజీసీ కేర్. Journals that are listed in UGC care only are accepted. Publications in those journals are accepted. They will say, we will publish your paper within 48 hours, within 24 hours. Please don't go by that. If at all you reach the stage of publication. Madam, subjective research can every time be scientific? It has to adhere to science. Even when we are calling qualitative research as subjective, there is still a scientific method that is being followed there. Your content analysis, your discourse analysis, the case study method, it's not like you get an idea and you jot it down and you get it published. There is a stipulated format for everything. When you are doing your block 4 qualitative research, 4 units are there which talk about ethnography, case study, discourse analysis, and one more, some other topic as well, right? These are the different methods in qualitative research, and all of them you are studying there because there is science behind that. It is subjective from the perspective of the respondents. They are not taking any standardized tool. It is not a yes or no kind of a question. It is dependent more on what information they exchange with you. You conduct interviews. And how do you conduct interviews? Thanks to technology, you are recording their interviews. And then you will transcribe verbatim what they have told you in your research report. Okay? Qualitative research is a totally different ball game when compared to quantitative research. Anyways, now that you don't have to search too much because you have the information ready with you, just give it a thorough reading. Give it a thorough reading, and then you will understand the nitty-gritty of each kind of research method. Anything else? Interesting and helpful, ma'am. Yes, I'm happy if I'm of help to someone. Madam, subjective research can every time be scientific. Like, yeah, it will be scientific. Like I was telling you, how long will you conduct the interview? Response saturation is your goal in interview method or qualitative research. You will keep on interviewing till you haven't saturated the responses. Choosing between clinical versus counseling psychology, I cannot talk for anybody. It all depends on your personal interest. Counseling also is not just counseling psychology. A lot depends on your area of interest, whether you want to be a child counselor, or you want to counsel only the adolescent group, or you will have the preschool, the major school part, and adolescent or marital counseling or relationship counseling. All these areas are there, of course, but the theory remains the same. The techniques remain the same. Okay, clinical, yes, you get to see a lot of cases. If you want to understand how various disorders plague people, how they can be helped to come out of it, then clinical psychology. There is intense therapy in clinical psychology. In counseling psychology, in layman's terms, talk therapy is also okay, because the major problem that people get in because is they hardly have anybody to listen to them. So when they go to a counselor and this entire process of catharsis or talking happens, they feel they are half cured.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, one thing I've observed, ma'am, practically.
Yes.
Generally, in all of our houses, elder people will be there. They used to suffer with a lot of diseases. Orally, they used to say something like that. But whenever they're seeing the doctor itself, half of the disease has gone completely without taking the medication itself.
Yeah. There's so many factors to that. It's a belief that they hold with them, but the doctor's hand is a good hand. Okay?
Yeah.
So that could be one of the premise. Another premise is phalam kilamadiltene kani phalam dakkadu. Okay. So all these things, multiple factors play a role there.
Yeah.
Right?
Ma'am, could you please throw some light on the retest reliability? I was just going through yesterday.
See.
And how far will it help in retesting?
Yeah, like I said, if I take the test today, say 5th of December, I get a certain score or a certain IQ level, right? I take the same test, say 6th June, 5th June. I need to get the same IQ, plus or minus 2 or 3 points.
1 or 2. Okay.
Okay, so you're giving the same test to the same individual, but with a gap.
Okay.
Right? If you give it too much of a proximity, the result may not be that reliable. If you leave a significant gap of time in between, it has to measure what it purports to measure. Okay. It gives you the consistent result. Okay, validity is a test has to measure what it purports to measure. If it is saying it's an intelligence test, it has to measure intelligence and not any other social aspect or any other aspect.
It will be helpful in both individual research and group surveys.
Pardon?
Will it be helpful in both individual research, like you said, IQ test for an individual,
Yeah.
and
For
surveys
that
of
matter, any standardized tool would have been tested for its reliability and validity. And here is one important point. When you're writing your synopsis, you will have to write about the tools that you're using in your research work. When you're writing information about your tools, you have to make it a point to mention about the scoring part, as well as the reliability coefficient and validity coefficient of the scale that you have chosen. So why should we take the pain of mentioning all this? From where did we get this information? We got this information because someone else has already done that. So, as a responsible researcher, you should also provide this information so that your limitations will be the research gap for another person who wants to do research in that area.
Giving a reference or
Yes.
mentioning
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ma'am, can you guide during my research? We'll see. There's still a lot of time for you all.
Depend upon the availability of the seat. So
Yes.
only one guide can give the guidance to only 10 students per batch. So depend upon the availability, she will guide you.
So it is like now first come first serve basis because my name has been included in the website. So I should personally thank Dr. Prasad Babu Garu because the moment he said that you can choose a paper, I wanted to do this. And I don't get to teach research methodology in my college because there are other experts who do that very well, better than me. I hope I was at least successful partially in driving home the point. Yeah.
No, ma'am, it is very, very introspective. Like you really get into, you want
Really,
to
ma'am.
read, go back to the book and read that particular topic.
Yeah.
Thought provoking, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
It is. It is.
Okay. So from my end, we have finished.
So thank you, madam, for
Thank you.
last week and this week.
Yeah.
So you have taken a lot of effort to our students.
Effort has been completely mine.
So
because-
guiding the guidance and counseling. Ours is a counseling session. For
Yes.
4 hours is not a easy task to guide the students. So generally, when we go for the face-to-face mode, 45 minutes generally we used to teach half an hour only. Remaining 15 minutes attendance and all other things we speak. So here, 4 hours counseling or teaching is not a easy task. Anyhow, thank you very much on behalf of Regional Center Vijayawada.
Thank you so much.
And acceptance given for us also. Thank you. Actually, I have taken nearly 7 members list. So one by one, I asked the concerned people, and Ravikant sir told immediately, I will take 2 papers. So you told 2 papers. And Vimla madam told that, okay, juniors, let them take whatever paper left over, I will take.
So nice of her.
So, but madam told that only first paper I will take, remaining if anybody not taken, I will take. So, but statistics also we have got Rajalashmi madam. Otherwise, this paper also may given to Vimla madam, but already madam is accepted.
Right.
Next week she will take. Anyhow, next week we will send the feedback forms to learners also. So we
Okay.
will take feedback. After that, what feedback we have received, that information also will inform to you.
Sure, sure, sure.
So because only we get feedback, because of feedback only we have to improve our teaching or counseling techniques. So every batch we used to take feedback. So this time also we take feedback, and whatever remarks, good or bad, immediately we inform to the concerned counselors.
And it is helpful for us also.
Yes. To enhance our teaching skills or to modify our behavior also. So
Right.
it's a essential part. Feedback is essential part in our IGNOU. So
Yeah.
remaining university, I don't know, but here generally face to face, when we conduct counseling session face to face, we collect feedback face to face. Now face to face mode is not there. Since online, we send the Google form to all the learners. So we take the feedback. So once we receive the feedback, we tabulate the feedback form and we'll inform you.
Sure, sir.
So that's, thank you very much, madam. So any doubts from student side?
Sir,
Ah.
sir, can you please send us these recordings, sir?
ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఈజ్ ఇది వచ్చి ఏమైందంటే ఎక్కువ ఎక్సెస్ ఏదో ఉండిందంట, అందువల్ల షేర్ చేయలేకపోతున్నాం. దాన్ని ఏదన్నా డ్రైవ్ లో పెట్టి పంపించేదానికి
గూగుల్ డ్రైవ్ లో పెట్టి యూ కెన్ గివ్ ద యాక్సెస్, సార్. మెయిల్
Share on cloud.
we can
Google
access.
Drive is
సో అన్ని సెషన్లు అయిపోయిన తర్వాత ఆల్ ది పేపర్స్ వి కీప్ ఇన్ డ్రైవ్ అండ్ విల్ షేర్ ఇట్ టు యూ ఆల్.
Thank you, sir.
సో వి గివ్ యాక్సెస్ డైరెక్ట్లీ టు ఆల్ ది క్యాండిడేట్స్.
Yeah.
దట్ ఈస్
సార్ వాట్సాప్ గ్రూప్ ఏమైనా ఫామ్ చేయగలదు?
మేమైతే వాట్సాప్ గ్రూప్ ఏం ఫామ్ చేయలేదు, బట్ స్టూడెంట్స్ ఎవరో ఫామ్ చేశారో చెప్తా ఉంటారు.
ఆల్రెడీ ఉంది కదండి, వాట్సాప్ గ్రూప్ ఉందండి ఒకటి.
కుడ్ యూ ప్లీజ్ జాయిన్ మీ?
Yeah, it will be. We will send you the link. Through the link you can join. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you. My number is 9441890315.
Yeah, here in message box, someone will please keep that link. Yeah, put the right. Yes.
Okay.
So already July Jan session students they formed a group, I think. So July session students not formed so far because they have not met students. So we have not given the data to study center also. Once the data is fine, still admissions are going on for July session. UGC has keep on giving extension. So this time again they have given December 15th is the last day to apply for the July session. So still students are admitting. Already we crossed 60 students for July session. So 15th is the last date. If anybody is interested, please tell to your friends also. Because 6 months will save time. 6 months time is saving. And this time July session batch, they have given the option for the choosing the project or theory paper, positive psychology. Last time also I have mentioned.
Yes.
So this time if anybody not taken re-registration, if they take re-registration in next July session, so they have the option to take project or theory paper.
Okay, sir.
But this January session do not have that option. So all have to do project only. But anyhow, you will get exposure if you want to do further research. So dissertation work is very helpful to you.
Sir, I am for July 21 batch, sir. Can I have the option?
Yeah. July 21 batch have the option to take theory paper.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
But Sangeeta madam has done her MPhil and PhD related to diabetes. So when we were the research scholars in the Department of Psychology, our guide is specialized in health psychology. So most probably 8 to 10 students done their MPhil or PhD related to diabetes and psychological interventions. So when I was the student, sir told that so already diabetes subject is over. So we take new topic.
Disease.
New topic means they have given me tuberculosis. So, so I was the first student to took the tuberculosis subject patients, and it was very horrible to collect the data because it is a contagious disease. So collecting data from the TB patients, so it was very difficult. But I was sick for some time also when I was collecting data. But before that, I was taken the BCG vaccination also. Even though I was sick sometime, but successfully collected the data and completed my PhD. But only thing is, Andukuri Kasi Viswanathan, please mic off chair.
Okay, sir.
So research work, collecting the data also very difficult because while we choosing the topic itself, you have to think of all those things. Sometimes we think that the topic is very good and new research, but collecting the data and collecting the review of literature and all those things is very difficult sometimes. So that those things also keep it in our mind and choose the topic.
Sir, IGNOU doesn't have health psychology, kada?
We don't have health psychology, but now we have introduced health psychology paper in BA psychology.
Okay.
But we are offering 1 year PG diploma in mental health.
Okay.
But in Vijayawada region, we are not offering, but in Bhubaneswar, near to our state.
Why I'm saying is, Madi, it comes under communicable and non-communicable diseases.
Avunu.
So, దాని గురించి కూడా చాలా ఉన్నది హెల్త్ సైకాలజీలో.
Sir, is it the same IGNOU, sir, from Bhubaneswar?
Yes, madam. Bhubaneswar Regional Center is offering PG diploma in mental health.
Same online?
Online, they are offering, actually program is ODL mode only, but classes and all those things, I think they are conducting online, I think. But they have PG diploma in mental health is having one practical component. So what they are doing exactly, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
If you write to them through email, they will give you the reply.
Sure, sir.
Or otherwise, your handbook itself mentioned the Swati Patra, one madam is there. She is having the email ID. Just you can write to her. She is the coordinator of that program. So she will give you the proper information.
Swati?
Swati Patra.
Okay, sir.
@ignou.ac.in. She is the coordinator of the PG diploma mental health. So if you write, she will give you proper guidance.
Thank you, sir.
And health psychology is the growth area now. Hyderabad Central University is having the department itself, Center for Health Psychology. They are offering MSc Health Psychology, 5 years integrated, and 2 years MSc Health Psychology, and 1 year PG diploma in Health Psychology. They are offering, but these 3 programs are regular mode, and they are offering PhD in psychology, but PhD not in health psychology. They are awarding the degree PhD in psychology, but you can choose the topic related to health.
Sir, do we have any prerequisites to do this PG diplomas?
PG diploma, any graduation is eligible, madam.
Fine, sir.
But PG diploma in mental health, they have mentioned clearly that in bachelor degree, BA psychology, social work, nursing, B.Ed, like that they have given some subjects.
Okay.
So those specialization students only eligible to apply for that.
Okay.
So very interesting research methodology topic here, and the subject is very interesting. So after your post graduation, better to, if permits, in your level circumstances and your family situations and all, if you are really interested, go for research work and enjoy. Health psychology is the nowadays progressing subject and emerging subject also. So just now, today, Times of India paper I have seen MSc clinical psychology and MSc health psychology started by Apollo hospitals.
Okay.
Just now, I have gone through the newspaper. Apollo hospitals this year they are starting MSc clinical psychology and MSc health psychology.
In Geetam, they have made it a core subject. Earlier, it was an elective, but now they made it a core subject.
Health psychology. Oh, good. When we select a new topic and a new area, work will be easier, and we have to do hard work, but we get good appreciation also. When I have submitted my PhD thesis, and one foreign examiner written comments, just he has written 2 lines: work is excellent. So far, no psychology student has done related to tuberculosis. This is the first time PhD I have seen. Thesis may be awarded. 2 or 3 lines he has written. And one more thing, he has mentioned, I have seen so many thesis books, more than 100 pages, but this thesis is only 58 pages.
Oh.
My PhD thesis was only 58 pages. Andhra University, I was the first student submitted less number of pages with PhD, 58 pages in social sciences. Only mathematics, one student submitted 13 pages and he got awarded PhD. In social sciences, 58 pages, I got awarded PhD. So under the guidance of Dr. K. Madhu. So all gratefulness to our guide. So not our gratefulness, but our guide gratefulness.
See, it all depends whether you get to do a topic of your interest or you comply with the suggestions given by your guide. There is always 2 things. So far for me, as far as synopsis guidance is concerned, I am able to go ahead with the interest of the scholar. But sometimes it will be like no other option, we have to comply.
Yeah. Okay, we'll meet again next week. Huh? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you, ma'am.
Nice
Thank
and
you, sir.
you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Gopal
Thank you,
garu,
sir.
madam వచ్చారా?
మేడం మధ్యలో ఒకసారి జాయిన్ అయ్యారు కానీ ఏం మాట్లాడలేదండి.
ఆహా.
నేను ఫోన్ చేసి అడిగాను నేను ఇంటరాక్ట్ అవుతారా అని. మేడం బాగానే కంటిన్యూ చేస్తున్నారు కదండి, నేనే ఇంటరాక్ట్ అవ్వని చెప్పాను.
ఓకే ఓకే సరే అండి అయితే. ఓకే.
ఓకే సార్ అయితే.